BookCast FM, bringing books to life one cast at a time. Welcome to this deep dive.
Great to be here.
Today we're tackling a really big one, a book that's become, well, almost a cornerstone of productivity thinking.
Absolutely. David Allen's Getting Things Done, The Art of Stress-Free Productivity.
Exactly. Lots of people have heard the name GTD, but we want to really unpack it today, figure out what makes it so influential and how you, listening, can actually use its core ideas.
Yeah, definitely go beyond just the surface level. Our goal is to really dig into the critical insights,
Yeah.
The practical stuff within GTD that can genuinely help you get more control.
And hopefully reduce some of that stress we all feel.
For sure. Reduce stress, boost productivity. We'll look at the basic framework, but also why it still works for so many people.
Okay, so the fundamental idea, the heart of GTD, it's actually pretty simple, isn't it?
It is, yeah. Deceptively simple, maybe?
Right. Your brain is for having ideas.
Not for holding them. That's the key phrase.
We all know that feeling, right? Your head's full, things keep popping up. Alan says that's just a massive drain.
It's a huge drain. And GTD's core principle is you have to externalize that stuff. Get it out of your head.
Into a system you trust.
Exactly. A trusted system. Capture the tasks, the ideas, commitments, everything. That frees up your mental RAM, basically.
Like closing background apps on your computer.
Perfect analogy. So you can actually focus on what you're doing now instead of battling all those reminders.
And this brings us to those 5 famous steps. The core GTD workflow.
Capture, clarify, organize, reflect, and engage.
They sound straightforward, but the magic is in how they actually work together, isn't it?
Totally. Each step has layers. It's a cycle, really.
Okay, so capture is just getting it all down.
Everything. Anything grabbing your attention. Then clarify, what is this thing? Is there an action?
Then organize, putting it where it belongs in your system.
Followed by reflect, looking at it regularly so it stays useful.
And finally, engage, actually doing this stuff, making smart choices.
Right. Choosing what to work on based on, context and energy.
What I find fascinating is the psychology behind it. Alan talks a lot about open loops.
Ah, yes, the open loop, such a powerful concept.
These incomplete tasks, these undecided things, just swirling around.
Exactly, and they sap your mental energy, even the tiny ones you barely notice.
Like little background processes just constantly running.
That's it. Each one eats up resources. GTD gives you a structure to consciously close those loops, or at least define the next step.
Maybe frees up that mental energy.
Yeah, frees it up for, actual thinking, productive work, creativity.
So if someone really commits to this, what are the payoffs? What benefits can you realistically expect?
Well, the reports are pretty consistent. People often see a big jump in productivity, better focus.
Less stress, I imagine.
Definitely less stress, less mental clutter. You get better at prioritizing, feel more in control.
Which can even boost creativity, right?
Huh.
Because you're not constantly bogged down.
Exactly. And you end up with this reliable system for everything from daily tasks to, your big life goals.
The book is packed with these really punchy quotes that just nail the core ideas. Let's touch on a few key ones.
Yeah, let's do that.
The big one, the foundation. Your mind is for having ideas, not holding them.
That really is the mantra, isn't it? It sums up the whole philosophy. Trying to use your brain as a filing cabinet is just inefficient and stressful.
So you need that external system.
You absolutely need it. Let the system handle storage and reminders so your mind can do the cool stuff, innovate, solve problems.
Okay, here's one that really struck me. If you don't pay appropriate attention to what has your attention, it will take more of your attention than it deserves.
Ooh, that's a good one. It speaks to the cost of ignoring things, right?
Yeah, like procrastination just lets things fester and take up background noise.
Totally. Those unattended tasks, they don't just disappear. They linger. They nag you mentally, even if you're trying to focus elsewhere.
So dealing with it, even just deciding the next action, cuts that down.
Drastically reduces that mental tax, yeah.
Then there's the blunt truth. You can do anything, but not everything.
Yeah. A necessary reality check.
It forces you to think about prioritization, about limits.
Exactly. You can't chase every single thing. GTD helps you figure out what actually matters most right now and gives you permission to let go of the rest, at least for the moment.
And moving towards the doing part. The key to managing all of your stuff is managing your actions.
This is pure GTD. Focus on the actions. Concrete, physical next steps. You can't manage a vague idea like improve website.
You need specifics.
You need specifics. What's the very next action you can take? That's what you manage.
Which ties right into that other quote, often linked to Mark Twain, that Alan uses. The secret of getting ahead is getting started.
The secret of getting started is breaking your complex, overwhelming tasks into small, manageable tasks and then starting on the first one.
That feels like the absolute core of next action thinking.
It really is. Overwhelm often comes from staring at a huge, undefined task. GTD says, just figure out the absolute smallest next physical step.
Like the 2-minute rule.
Exactly. If it takes less than 2 minutes, just do it now. Don't even track it. It builds momentum, stops tiny things piling up.
There's another one reinforcing that idea of offloading. There's an inverse relationship between things on your mind and those things getting done.
So true. The more you're juggling mentally,
The less capacity you have to actually do any of it.
right, get it out of your head and into the system, and suddenly you have the bandwidth to actually execute. Things start getting finished.
And what about when things do get stuck? Alan says. Things rarely get stuck because of lack of time. They get stuck because the doing of them has not been defined.
That's a huge insight. It puts the emphasis squarely on clarity.
It's not usually about not having enough hours in the day.
It's usually because you haven't figured out the very next step. What does doing this actually look like physically? Define that, and procrastination often melts away.
Okay, this next one feels important for peace of mind. You can only feel good about what you're not doing when you know what you're not doing.
Ah, yes. This points straight to the importance of the review step.
The weekly review especially.
Exactly. Knowing you've looked at everything, made conscious choices about what's on your plate and what's deliberately not. That lets you focus without guilt. You know what you're not doing and why.
It's a conscious decision.
It is, not just a vague feeling of dropping balls.
And lastly, a bit of reassurance. You have to think about your stuff more than you realize, but not as much as you're afraid you might.
Yeah, I like that one. It addresses the fear that setting up a system like this will be this massive, complicated chore.
It takes effort, sure, but maybe not as much effort as the constant low-level stress of not having a system.
That's the idea. A bit of structured thinking up front actually reduces the overall mental burden in the long run. The payoff is significant.
Okay, let's look at the book structure briefly. It's in 3 parts.
Yeah.
Part 1, the art of getting things done. What's the focus there?
Part 1, chapters 1 to 3, that's really the why. It lays the groundwork, the philosophy. Why do we need this? Why are older methods maybe not cutting it anymore in our, information overloaded world?
That sets the stage.
Exactly. Builds the case for GTD.
Then part 2, practicing stress-free productivity. Sounds like the how-to.
That's right. Chapters 4 through 10, this is the nuts and bolts. How to capture, how to clarify, organize, reflect, engage. All the practical details are in part 2.
The real mechanics of the system.
Yep. Step-by-step guidance.
And part 3 is the power of the key principles. What's covered there?
Part 3 zooms out a bit. Chapters 11 to 13, it looks at the bigger picture, the deeper benefits, the mindset shifts that happen when you really live with GTD. Things like the power of habit, focusing on outcomes, the long-term impact.
Okay, let's dig a bit deeper into chapter 1 then. A new practice for a new reality. What's the core message Alan starts with?
He basically says, look, the world has changed. The sheer amount of stuff coming at us, emails, messages, ideas, demands, it requires a different way of operating. Old time management just doesn't cope.
And without a system, what happens?
You get the classic problems. Mental clutter, feeling stressed and overwhelmed. You can't prioritize effectively because everything feels urgent. You're just reacting all the time.
That feeling of being buried.
Exactly. And that's where he introduces this idea of mind like water.
Ah, yeah. What does that mean, practically?
It's a metaphor for the ideal state, right? Calm, clear, responsive, like still water reflects perfectly whatever comes along.
Without overreacting or underreacting.
Precisely. Your mind engages appropriately with things without the drag of all that unresolved clutter. GTD is the system designed to help you achieve that clarity.
And he stresses it's not about just working harder.
No, not at all. Productivity isn't about brute force. It's about managing your attention, directing it effectively.
Doing the right things.
Right. And managing those open loops. We talked about anything pulling at your attention that hasn't been resolved or captured properly.
He includes some great quotes in this chapter, too. Yeah. The real issue is how we manage actions.
Yeah, straight away it sets that action-oriented tone. It's not enough to just think or plan vaguely. It's about managing the specific doings.
And most people feel best about their work when they're making progress on something that matters.
That connects GTD to, purpose and fulfillment. Making actual progress on important stuff feels good, and GTD helps you do that.
He even brings in Zen philosophy, Shinri Suzuki's beginner's mind. How does that fit?
Well, the beginner's mind is about openness, seeing things fresh, without preconceptions. An uncluttered mind, which GTD aims for, is naturally more open, more creative, better at seeing the right path forward.
It creates that space.
Exactly. And he uses that very relatable example, right? The professional buried under emails and tasks.
The overflowing inbox as a symbol of modern overwhelm.
Yeah. Without a system to process it all, it just becomes this huge source of stress. GTD provides that processing system.
So boiling down chapter 1, what are the key things for you, the listener, to take away?
Okay, first, recognize that trying to keep everything in your head is mentally costly. Second, understand productivity really starts with an external, trusted system.
Get it out of your head.
Get it out. Third, aim for that mind-like water state clarity, responsiveness. And fourth, remember, it's about doing the right things the right way, managing your attention, not just being busy.
Right. Okay, let's move to chapter 2, getting control of your life. The 5 steps of mastering workflow. This really is the engine room of GTD, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
This is where he lays out that core 5-step process. Capture, clarify, organize, reflect, engage. It's the repeatable method for dealing with all the stuff that comes your way.
Mastering these is key.
It's fundamental to getting control.
Okay, let's break them down again, maybe with a bit more detail. Step 1, capture. Goal. Tools.
Goal. Get everything out of your head. No exceptions. Tools. Whatever works for you. Physical inbox, notebook, phone app, voice recorder. Multiple in baskets are fine. Just needs to be reliable.
Capture ideas, tasks, commitments, anything with your attention.
Anything. Big or small. Get it collected.
Step 2.
Yeah.
Clarify. What happens here?
You process each item from your inbox. Ask, what is this? Is it actionable? Crucially, if yes, what's the very next physical action?
And if it's not actionable?
Then decide. Trash it, file it as reference, or put it on a someday maybe list for later consideration. The key is making a decision now.
Don't let it just sit there undefined.
Exactly. Define it or defer it consciously.
Step 3. Organize. Putting the clarified stuff in the right place.
Right. Alan suggests specific categories. Your next actions list may be sorted by context, like at computer, at calls, at home.
A projects list too, right? For anything needing more than one step.
Yep. A projects list, a waiting for list for delegated tasks, your calendar for anything truly date or time specific.
Someday. Maybe for future ideas. And a reference system for non-actionable info.
Exactly. A place for everything so you know where to find it.
Step 4. Reflect. This sounds crucial for keeping it working.
It's non-negotiable, really. You have to review your system regularly. The cornerstone is the weekly review.
Setting aside time each week.
To look over everything, your lists, your calendar, your projects. Process any leftover captured items. Get current, get clear. Without this, the system decays and you stop trusting it.
The trust is key.
Absolutely vital.
And finally, step 5. Engage. Making choices about what to do.
Right. Now that your system is clear and current, you choose what to work on. Alan suggests using 4 criteria.
Yeah.
Context, where are you? What tools do you have? Time available, energy level.
And priority. What's most important right now?
Exactly. It's about making informed, strategic choices moment by moment.
Alan, again, touches on the psychology here. Our brains aren't built for storage.
Right. We're great at processing, terrible at remembering dozens of random things reliably over time. That's where the leaks happen. Stress, forgotten stuff.
So the system takes the storage load off.
Precisely. Frees up your brain for thinking, not just remembering.
And he makes that point again. Overwhelm isn't just volume, it's lack of clarity.
It's often the undefined nature of things that weighs us down, not knowing what the next step is. Clarifying fixes that.
Chapter 2 has some great quotes too. It's not about time. It's about the volume of stuff and the lack of structure.
Yeah, that hits hard. More hours won't help if you don't have a way to manage the flow. You need the structure.
And you don't actually do a project. You can only do action steps related to it.
Back to that core idea. Break it down. Focus on the next concrete action. That's how projects get done.
One action at a time.
One action at a time.
If you don't decide what the next action is, you'll keep thinking about it, and it will consume more energy than it deserves.
The cost of indecision. Just defining that next step can be incredibly liberating for your mental energy.
He uses the meeting notes trap example. How does GTD solve that?
Yeah. We take notes, list action items in meetings, and then they just sit there in the notebook, right?
They're gotten into the next meeting, maybe.
Exactly, GTD says. Those notes are inputs. They need to go into your capture tool, then be clarified. What are the next actions from that meeting? Get them onto your next actions lists. Organize them properly.
So meeting outcomes actually turn into actions.
That's the goal. Integrate them into your trusted system.
Okay, key takeaways from Chapter 2. The operational heart.
Think in terms of inputs and actions. Use the 5 steps. Capture, clarify, organize, reflect, engage as your workflow model. Make capturing a habit.
Clarify every single item. Define that next action.
Don't skip. Reflect, especially the weekly review. It keeps the system alive. And then engage wisely. Choose your actions based on context, time, energy, priority.
Got it. Let's move into Chapter 3. Getting projects creatively underway. The 5 phases of project planning. So shifting from single tasks to bigger things.
Right. This chapter offers a more natural way to plan projects compared to maybe rigid formal methods. And remember, a project in GTD is simply anything requiring more than one action step.
Could be huge, could be relatively small.
Exactly. Planning a vacation is a project. Launching a product is a project.
And he outlines 5 phases of natural project planning. What are they?
Okay, first, purpose and principles. Ask why. What's the real reason for this project? What are my standards for success?
Get clear on the motivation.
Yeah. Second, outcome visioning. What does success look like? Visualize the finished result. Define that end goal clearly.
Third is brainstorming.
Yep. Just generate ideas freely. Anything related, don't filter or judge at this stage. Get it all out.
Quantity over quality initially.
Right. Fourth, organizing. Now you start structuring those brainstormed ideas. Group them, find sequences, identify priorities, maybe set some milestones.
Make sense of the brainstormed mess.
Kind of, yeah. And fifth, crucially, identifying next actions. Based on the organized plan, what is the very next physical thing you need to do to move this forward?
Always back to the next action.
Always.
And he contrasts this natural way with more formal planning.
He does. Natural planning is more intuitive, flexible, like how we often think through problems naturally. Formal planning can sometimes get bogged down in bureaucracy, rigid documents. It can stifle action sometimes.
Yeah.
GTD favors the natural, adaptive approach.
Makes sense. And quotes from this chapter. We see that recurring one again. You don't actually do a project, you can only do action steps related to it.
It just keeps coming back because it's so fundamental. Even complex projects boil down to a sequence of individual actions.
Focus on the next step.
Keep the ball rolling.
Another one. The most productive people have a clear picture of the outcomes they're after.
Yeah, that emphasizes the power of phase 2. Outcome visioning. Knowing exactly where you're heading provides direction and motivation.
You guide your choices along the way.
Absolutely. And related to that, the value of a goal or vision is the degree to which it serves as a means to an end.
So the goal isn't just a nice idea.
It has to drive action. Its value is in how it helps you figure out what to do next, how it informs your planning and execution.
He uses examples like a marketing campaign or planning a vacation. How do they illustrate this natural planning?
He shows how applying those 5 phases, why are we doing this campaign? What does success look like? Let's brainstorm ideas, organize them. What's the very first call I need to make?
It breaks down complexity.
Makes it manageable.
Yeah. Turns an overwhelming idea into a series of logical, doable steps, whether it's work stuff or personal stuff like a vacation.
So, actionable takeaways from Chapter 3 on projects.
When you feel stuck on a project, ask those 5 natural planning questions. Why? Outcome. Brainstorm. Organize. Next action. That can often unstick things.
Keep that projects list comprehensive and review it regularly. Yes. Don't confuse planning with just creating static documents. It should be dynamic, action-focused. And always, always identify the very next physical action for every single project on your list.
That seems to be the thread running through everything.
It really is the engine of GTD. Next, action thinking.
Okay, wow. This has been a really thorough look into the foundations of getting things done. Just to quickly recap the big ideas for everyone listening.
Probably covered that core philosophy, right? Get stuff out of your head into a trusted system.
Free up mental space. Then the 5 steps. Capture, clarify, organize, reflect, engage. That's the core workflow.
And the power of focusing on the next action for everything, tasks and projects, plus the importance of that weekly review to keep the system trusted and working.
Right. It's all about breaking things down, gaining clarity, making conscious choices.
And ultimately reducing that feeling of overwhelm, gaining control, and actually becoming more productive on the things that matter to you. It's a really powerful framework.
Absolutely. And we really hope that you, listening, feel inspired to maybe try out some of these ideas, even just starting small.
Yeah, don't feel you have to implement everything overnight. Maybe just start with capture. Do a mind sweep, grab a pen and paper, or open a digital note, and just dump everything that's currently on your mind.
Just get it out. That alone can be a huge relief.
It really can. And then maybe start clarifying one or two of those items. What's the next action? Consistent application, like David Allen describes in the book, really can make a massive difference over time.
You could definitely see improvements in productivity, less stress, more control.
For sure. And if you want to go even deeper, get all the nuances and specific setup advice, we definitely recommend getting the full book, Getting Things Done.
Yeah, it's worth the read. We'll put a link in the description for you.
Check it out to support the author.
BookCast FM, bringing books to life one cast at a time.
Thanks so much for joining us on this deep dive.
Yeah, thanks for listening.
Now, here's something to think about as you go. What's maybe one significant open loop you're carrying around right now? Just one. If you were to actually capture it, clarify it, define that very next action, how might that single change impact your focus, your energy, your well-being today? Something to consider.